Hello, 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 welcome back to Hunter Tuned. Today we're going to be doing some Honda stuff on the dyno, and I got two different cars that I'm probably going to show you guys. First one was an all-motor B20 Vtec car. Made great power, had a ton of really good parts on it, and was a good outcome at the end of the day. We had to fix a couple little issues on it initially before we started rolling, but didn't really film a whole ton of it. Just kind of wanted to throw some of the clips in that I do have of that car, and then after that we'll move on to this thing, which has been on the dyno now for a couple days with some issues with VTEC. So I want to try to maybe dive into this thing after, I don't know how long this video is going to be. If it's really long, I'm sorry, or if it's really long and you like that, cool, let me know. But anyways, I'm going to try to just share as much as I can with this car. It's a B20 Vtec Turbo EG hatch. And one more thing I did kind of want to mention to you guys before we got rolling on the video here is you guys probably have been wondering, like, where the hell is the Honda content, you know? And I apologize, but I don't personally have a Honda of my own right now. I sold Barney just because I really wasn't in love with the coupe. I would rather have something like a hatchback. I mean, I think the Honda I owned the longest was like 5 years ago, and it was an EG hatch, just like the car that's on the dyno right now. So I've been trying to find, you know, an EG hatch, maybe an EK hatch, just some sort of hatchback with a K series or a B series in it, or a D series maybe, but literally there's nothing for sale. Like, I can't find a Honda to save my life, and if I do find a Honda, like, it's gone in 5 minutes or whatever. So like, the market for these cars lately has been so inflated, I can't find any, like, anywhere in the States. So I've been trying to maybe ask you guys, like, hey, you guys got a Honda you want to sell? I mean, I'm willing to have it shipped. I'm willing to look all over the US and have one shipped up here. So if you guys got one for sale, just message me on Facebook, or you know, maybe shoot me an email if you guys got one for sale, just because, like I said, I kind of miss the Honda life, and I kind of miss screaming R's, and obviously the channel loves the Honda stuff. So I think I got to get another one of my own just to have to make content with. So you know, and part of me, you know, you guys are probably like, oh well, fucking heater is so loud. You guys are probably like, oh well, you should just keep one, or, you know, don't sell them when you get them. But like I said, I just haven't been in love with one enough to really keep it. And like I said, the EG hatch just has my heart. It's my favorite Honda of all of them. So, and I've had a couple of them here and there over the last couple years, but none of them have really kind of, you know, grabbed my attention enough to really hang on to. And I've just been busy with tuning other people's Hondas and stuff that, you know, haven't really had a whole ton of time for my own stuff. So that's just kind of another thing why there hasn't really been Honda content. And the last couple months, you know, with moving, I've been focusing on doing a lot of stuff at home, and you know, it's my first house that I ever bought, so I've been just doing stuff at home a lot. But I am getting back in my groove, making videos more often for you guys, and obviously getting back to customer stuff. So let's dive into this thing, and we'll see what we can come up with.
Should be no problem.
Let's see what she did. Yeah, dude, it makes way more power now.
Oh yeah?
207.
Oh wow, 207 already?
Yeah.
Wow, 207.
And that was a little rich yet, so we're gonna try to...
I didn't expect to hit 200.
Yeah,
I thought I was gonna make like 180. Wow.
Yeah. Let me clean this up a little bit, because like I said, when it was in VTEC, it kind of got rich. So okay. I'm going to try to clean this up. We could probably squeeze 215 out of it.
Oh, nice.
But it sounds really good.
Oh, yeah.
And it pulled all the way to 85.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's where I lifted, you can see there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so a little B20V action. making some good jam. We're gonna do another one after I make some changes and pick back up in a second. On number 2, pulled some fuel out of it this time and lowered VTEC. We'll compare the curves after the pull. Still a little rich on the top, but we just made 212 on that one. Yep.
212.
Yeah. So I think there may be a smidge in it yet. I don't know, but you can see right here where I changed the VTEC a little bit, so we picked up. I'll show you here. Bring this in a little bit better and lower this down. So you can see the line, the change here is from VTEC changing. So I changed where it engaged and the fueling for VTEC here, and I'm thinking there might be a little bit of a split here that we can gain on it yet still, but we'll see. But I mean, 212 is pretty healthy for this thing. Yeah. That good. He's got a Skunk Ultra manifold on it and big throttle body, big long tube header. This is the big, I don't know what brand header you said this was?
Skunk 2.
Yeah, this is a Skunk 2 Alpha big tube header, so that is super big deal to make these things make power. Yeah, it's honestly a pretty healthy setup. It's got built bottom end with GSR cams on the top end. So we gotta try to maybe clean up a smidge more, and we'll be ready to go.
We want to try one with the filter?
Let's wait for a second on that. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, 213.
213?
We're pulling here at this point.
Oh yeah, that seems pretty good.
Yeah.
13.
It's about all we're gonna get, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty good though, man.
Oh yeah.
I'd be happy with that.
Oh yeah. Better, way better than before. I made
154 because there was some issues with the car.
Where's my torque at?
160.
160, nice.
Alright guys, so we just got done doing this B20 Vtec EK that was just here. It had a bunch of really good parts on it. High compression pistons, built bottom end, and it had the Skunk 2 Ultra manifold, intake manifold, and big throttle body. And it also had a big Skunk 2 Alpha header, which those parts alone will give you great results. And I mean, the proof's in the pudding here, guys. I mean, this isn't even like a big camshaft or anything like that on this B20V, and it's making 213 horsepower. We did make some improvements with it. I actually tuned this car on Chrome instead of HTS. I'm kind of switching back to Chrome on a lot of these chipped ECU cars just because I've had a lot of like weird, especially with the colder weather here in Wisconsin, I've had a bunch of weird like cold start bugs and some other just random bugs that Chrome just seems to run a lot smoother. I'm still using HTS for some turbo cars that need boost control and big large injectors and stuff like that, but Chrome for the basic stuff seems to run them a lot better. So I don't know. But anyways, we're gonna move on to the next car here and hopefully make some jam with it as well. All right, so the next car here that we're doing is a EG hatch with a GSR, I think. It's a B20V actually. So B20 eBay kit. It's got a cast iron top mount, Hunter tuned flex fuel injectors off my website, PLM 4-bar map sensor, pretty much just an eBay kit really. We got a nice radiator in it. The Car's on Hondata S300, and we are just kind of going through and checking stuff over. I actually just swapped the spark plugs out because this car came in with a set of BKR6s, which a little too hot for doing turbo stuff. So we're going up in number for the plug, which we went down to a NGK 4554. So these will be good for about 500 horse. Anything more than that, and you kind of want to go to like a 9. So I'm just bleeding the coolant out of it right now, and I'm going to set the ignition timing. Did everything else, check the fluids over. I had to add a little bit of oil, little coolant here. Nothing too big, but really nice EG hatch. Honestly, for being in Wisconsin, this car is actually super nice. Clean rear quarters. He said he bought it pretty much bone stock and swapped the motor in, put the turbo kit on, and here we are at Hunter Tuned. So super cool. These guys have been following the channel for quite a while, and it's exciting to help people that support the channel. So like I said, we're moving in here. Seems like it runs fairly good already. I just have a base map in it for the flex fuel injectors, which typically these base maps will run these cars pretty good, but they may have had a little bit of residual pump gas in here prior to putting the E85 in, because this map is running quite rich. So if we're looking here at the wideband, we're running about 11.3 air fuel. So we're gonna get on the laptop here and get the timing to sync up. Go to online and then set timing. So now the timing is set. Actually, give me 1 second here. I always make sure that I'm data logging before I do the set timing, because sometimes it doesn't actually activate the set timing feature unless you're logging. So I just like to make sure of that. So now we'll grab our light, we'll hook onto the number 1 plug wire and the battery, and we'll shoot the crank pulley for top dead center. We have the computer currently at 16 degrees. Did you already set the timing?
I know.
That's good.
Awesome.
That's not usually the case.
So what is the video? That's fine.
So the timing's all synced up. Timing was actually already synced. So I hooked the gun up and it was already good. So that's kind of a first. Usually you don't see that. So we're moving on. I'm probably gonna get the car strapped down so we can start rolling on it, get the idle and cruising kind of dialed in, and then we'll move on to some wide open throttle. All right guys, so we got the car strapped down here, and we're gonna be kind of just rolling on it, getting the tack set up on the dyno. So you guys know I do this a lot, where we'll set the set point of the RPM of the engine, probably 4th gear on this car because it's a turbo car. So we'll set that at like 3,000 RPM, and then once we hit 3 grand inside the car, I lock it, and it seems to be working good lately. Sure beats running a wire from the dyno over to the car, because a lot of times you'll get a lot of interference with that setup too. So I mean, it's tough to set, but this seems to work well for me. Like I said, I already have a base map kind of built on this thing, so we're gonna kind of work off of that and go from there. Once again, car's on Hondata S300. So it starts up good. Like I said, it is probably a smidge rich currently. Idling. I did throw a different base file on it that was already kind of calibrated with my timing maps and stuff like that. So this timing map that's in this car currently is pretty soft. So we're just going to start there. If we want to maybe lean on the timing a little bit later, we can, but we're just going to start small and work our way up instead of, you know, the other way around is sometimes dangerous. Man, these flex fuel decapped injectors. Just look at how smooth this thing runs. I mean, that idle is just chilling, and that air fuel is just chilling. That's at the injector dynamics dead times. They run pretty good. So we'll just go in here and we'll run through our parameters. We'll make sure that we have a fairly safe rev limiter. This one's at 7,200, so we could probably bump that up to 882. That's what a stock GSR is. This is a B20 Vtec, but we're just gonna change the limiter to 82. And I probably won't go over that unless the owner says it's okay, because he says it's a built motor, but he doesn't know for sure. So we'll go through here. We'll turn VTEC off for now until we get everything kind of lined out. Make sure our radiator fan's coming on, which temperature on the car currently is only 155 degrees. So got to get some heat in it yet to test the fan. So we're just going through here. We'll make sure our TPS is set up good. So if we go here and we see TPS, we're at 0. And if we go all the way down to the floor, it should go to 100%. Went to 102 there, so we might have to calibrate it, which I will do right now. So we'll have to turn the car off, turn the key back on, and then we'll go to TPS on the car here, and we'll hit read. Like I said, you got to be data logging for a lot of this stuff to work. So we'll read there, and then we'll go wide open throttle. Then we hit read there. So now the TPS should be calibrated to the 0 and then 100. So we'll do that. It still goes to 102 for some reason, but let's upload that change maybe. Now we'll go to display. See, now it goes to 100. So before I didn't actually upload the change, but now everything's working good. So let's keep running through our parameters here. We got the knock sensor disabled, but everything else is working good. It's nice when I'm not chasing check engine lights and stuff all the time. Closed loop is disabled. And our boost cut is at currently 15 pounds, which I'm going to leave it there for now, and we'll see kind of where it leads. So we'll get through, we'll iron out these fuel maps and ignition maps, and we'll pick up with you guys in a second when we get to rolling on this thing. There we go. So like I said, I'm gonna get the dyno synced up here. Car's running really good so far, idling, but hopefully she makes some jam as well. That's kind of what we're all here for, ain't we? Currently just kind of walking through cruising and tapering the fuel out of it as it raises RPM is typically what you need to do on these things, just because the engine gets a little more fuel efficient when I shouldn't say that. It doesn't get more fuel efficient, but the way that the map right now is tapered, it's increasing the values as it's going up in RPM, which is fine. But we need to taper the fuel, or we need to level the fuel at a certain spot for cruising. Temperature's looking good. Air fuel's looking good. It still walks lean just ever so slightly when I just get into the throttle, so I gotta find out where that spot is on the map where I'm thinking it's going lean. Fix it. Alrighty guys, so we're going to be doing some non-VTEC pulls right now. We're gonna get the non-VTEC side of the map dialed in, and then we're going to move on to the VTEC side. Once we kind of get a dyno curve and see where the turbo is gonna come in and stuff like that, we'll figure out kind of where we wanna set VTEC, and then we'll get the VTEC side tuned in and hopefully make some good power with this thing. It is just a basic eBay kit, but it runs pretty good so far. So we're only making about 6 pounds of boost right now with this setup, but we're already making some pretty good power without VTEC. We're gonna make sure we can synchronize these lines here. We didn't really rev the car too high that time, but the curve is looking good. It is starting to kind of fall off here just because there is no VTEC right now, but you can kind of see where the turbo comes in with the torque curve. So if we can see that, we should be able to bring VTEC in to kind of maintain that torque curve and keep it flat so we can bring the horsepower and keep it walking up. So currently 237 horsepower, which not too bad. We are just gonna continue going up from here. Like I said, this is no VTEC. I just like to get the non-VTEC side kind of dialed in beforehand, and then we'll turn VTEC on now, and we'll actually be able to know, like, okay, is it engaging? You know, is it falling out of VTEC, etc. Because now we have a power curve to go off of without VTEC. So if the VTEC curve looks like this one does, then we know, okay, VTEC's not working. Or maybe it's cracking, but it's not actually engaging. But this car does have oil pressure gauge in it too, which is another big thing that you kind of want to watch for. Is just make sure that, you know, your oil pressure is not dropping 40 psi when it comes into VTEC. You know, if you're having issues keeping it in VTEC, oil pressure is usually the first place to check. So I don't know if you guys could hear in that last pull, but we definitely have something going on at the VTEC crossover. Whenever the car's trying to cross over into VTEC, it's just stuttering. and it's almost like it's just got a misfire for some reason. So trying to figure out, just kind of going through a couple things. You know, the setup seems pretty healthy. You know, there's no weird motor noise or anything like that. The owner actually mentioned to me that the car was working, VTEC was working prior to doing the turbo kit, so I'm not thinking that it's anything inside the motor, but we did take the VTEC solenoid off just to kind of check the screen, because if that ever gets plugged up, it's usually a good sign of, you know, something in the motor is kind of chewing itself and it's spitting it through that screen, and if it gets plugged, the VTEC's not going to work. So I checked the screen. The screen itself was clean, but there was a chunk of, like, it almost looked like a piece of rag or something that was, or maybe filter material that was on the blocks or the head side of the solenoid. So we checked that. I obviously cleaned that out, but now I don't know, we're just gonna maybe try it again. I tried like a drastic fuel change either way, just because I have had cars where the wideband that's supplied by the customer reads like extremely wrong, or, you know, just off a ton. So I did check, or I did just kind of, you know, add a ton of fuel to it, pulled a ton of fuel away, and no change. So I think the wideband is reading right that's in the car, but that'll probably be my next step. If I can't figure this out, I might put the dyno wideband in just so I know, we can compare the two gauges to know that I'm getting true air fuel readings in the car from the gauge that's already in there. So I also did fail to mention too that I drained the overflow tank when we bled the coolant out of it, and I always run the overflow completely dry when I, you know, start tuning. And if we end up overfilling the overflow, or you know, adding coolant to the overflow at any point, the car wasn't overheating, but when I did come back under the hood after this issue, there was coolant in the overflow. It was about 3/4 of the way full just from a couple pulls here. So I drained the overflow, and we're just gonna continue going. And if it does fill up again, we definitely have a head gasket issue besides this, but we'll just kind of keep going and see if we can make something happen with this thing. Alright, so we've actually been troubleshooting this VTEC issue for a little while now. I had the valve cover off just to make sure that we had the center cam cap O-ring installed, because that can cause some issues sometimes, and I checked just to make sure like the lash wasn't too tight or anything like that. We checked the solenoid already, make sure there wasn't nothing in there. That looked good. I pulled the distributor cap off to make sure like the coil spring and everything was inside there and everything like that, because when VTEC engages, it demands a higher ignition load. So just make sure that stuff was good, which it does seem like it is. Next, we're just going to bypass the VTEC pressure switch. I never actually run them hooked up, so we're just going to try it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, you know, we'll keep looking elsewhere. But it's definitely stumping me because oil pressure inside the car is good. You know, everything seems to be checking out, but just a weird little issue. Just freaking shuts off in VTEC. Just, you know, starts stumbling and misfiring, so gotta try to keep chasing it. And you guys can see that it kind of comes up pretty strong, and then VTEC hits and it's like just falls right off. So yeah, I set VTEC kind of high that time just to see, like, you know, if something was going on there. I may just double check the cam timing quick, make sure that that's good. Otherwise, I really don't know what's causing this. It's got to be an internal oil pressure issue, something like that. Alrighty guys, so we are still kind of picking away at this thing. Probably gonna call it a day for now and come back to it after I just, you know, can brainstorm a little bit longer, see what the heck can be causing this issue. I may put an oil pressure gauge on the motor, a different one that is not the one that's in the car, because we'll actually be able to verify the pressure, you know, say at the head, instead of, you know, the gauge that's in the car is an electronic one. So I don't know if I'm really trusting it too much. I'd rather put a mechanical gauge on the engine and see if we can figure anything out that way. Otherwise, like I said, we are blowing some coolant, so we might just need a head gasket. I don't know. Not sure. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed some Honda content, and we're gonna be kind of, you know, hopefully figure this one out. It's stumping me, and I wanna get her figured out. I mean, I have like a scientist lab going on right now. I hooked up a new wideband because I'm like, maybe the air fuel readings are screwed up, but that didn't make sense because the way that the fuel map was set up, there was no way that it ran so clean before VTEC and made good horsepower without VTEC, that when it crossed over into VTEC, I had the duty cycle was going up by like a few percent, you know, like normal. So it wasn't like the fueling was that far off, and the wideband was reading where I wanted it to. So I really didn't think it was the wideband, but I'm like, I have nowhere else to, I don't know what else to look for. I checked all the pins, we checked the center O-ring, I had the fucking valve cover and, you know, half of the head apart, and I had, yeah, I'm just like, I don't know what the heck it is, man. Like, it seems like it's got really good oil pressure on the gauge in the car. So I tried a new oil pressure gauge, hooked that up, read the same, oil pressure was still good. So I'm like, what the heck? So I hooked up a VTEC line to the test port, or I hooked up a oil pressure gauge to the test port on the head, and I ran the oil pressure gauge to that, and then I did a pull and just kind of monitored the oil pressure, and it was coming up, but it was coming up pretty slow. I tested it with the solenoid. So I tested the solenoid manually with without it hooked up to the ECU, so it wouldn't backfeed into the computer. And I tested 12 volts going to the solenoid while it was running, and I could hear the rockers just trying to clack. Like, it wasn't really doing a whole lot, and the oil pressure was coming up, but like I said, it was coming up pretty slow, and I'm like, what the heck? I don't know what's going on here. All right, guys, I'm just filming an outro right now to this video. Hopefully you guys made it this far. If you do, I'm just gonna kind of try to explain some stuff and see kind of where I went today. Honestly, I probably have like 10 hours into this car right now, and I'm still stumped and I still haven't fixed it. So the issue is when the car comes into VTEC, it doesn't seem like it's fully engaging and it's misfiring on a couple holes. I did check like valve lash. After watching this video, I'm kind of like going back through and thinking some more. I didn't check the valve lash, I just kind of felt it on a couple cylinders. I did not check all the lash, which that would kind of make sense when, if the lash was too tight somewhere, and I didn't actually like see it, if I go through like all of it to find every one, to check every cylinder to make sure the lash is perfect and not too tight, because I think if it's too tight, when the VTEC hits, the valve's gonna hang open and it's gonna misfire like it's doing. So I thought I had fixed it because the guy said that. Another reason too is I'm kind of trusting the guy that brought the car in, and he said VTEC was working fully functional, and the car pulled to 8,500 or whatever perfectly before he turboed it, and then he turboed it, and now it has the issue. So I'm like, okay, well, let's eliminate those variables, because the VTEC oil feed line, which I thought I fixed it, and I was posting on Snapchat and stuff all stoked, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I fixed it, whatever. I didn't fix it. So he has a T off of the back of the block where the oil pressure switch is, and one of the parts of the T goes to the head for VTEC, the other side of it goes to the turbo for the feed line, and then on the back is the oil pressure gauge. So I think you're trying to cram a 4 or 6 AN line to the cylinder head through an 1/8 inch test port, and you're trying to feed a -4 oil feed line to the turbo and to the oil pressure gauge. So I think that little 1/8 inch test port is not enough to flow both of those. So I think that's part of the reason. So what I did, my buddy was actually out at the shop with me tonight trying to help me, and I thought I fixed it. I really thought I fixed it. I plugged the turbo feed off. So the turbo wasn't getting any oil, and my buddy was manually feeding it oil through the feed line just for one quick little pull to kind of see if VTEC was gonna work. And I thought I fixed it, but VTEC wasn't enabled on the tune, so I was like, ah, shit. I enabled it again, started doing the same shit with that thing plugged off. So that eliminates the, you know, if it worked before the turbo kind of thing. So, I mean, there's really no other variables other than the exhaust manifold, which that's not gonna cause a turbo or a VTEC issue like this. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I literally spent a ton of time on this thing, and you know, the guy's kind of really cool about it. He's understanding and everything like that, and I'm really appreciative of these type of customers. But at the end of the day, I have other people that are like, oh, can I come and get a dyno tomorrow? Can I come and dyno? Can I come and dyno? And I can't schedule people when this thing is taking up a lot of my time. So I just don't know where to draw the line. Like, I don't really want to pull the cylinder head on this car. I want to focus on just tuning cars. I'm not a mechanic, I'm a tuner. I can fix things, but this is what always gets me, and it always stresses me out, is I always try to be the hero. And all these cars that come in, even the car that I did prior to this one that I'm talking about right now, that guy comes in and, you know, the car's leaking oil and it's doing some other things, and I fixed, like, I don't even remember what I fixed on it. I fixed a couple things, like a wiring issue maybe. There was a TPS issue that I fixed that I didn't even film, and I just like fixed it because like I was just like, okay, I can fix this in no time at all. I'll help you out, and you know, we'll just go on with our dyno tune or whatever we got to do. So that was fine. I fixed some of those issues and let him know about the other ones, and he took it home, and you know, he can fix them on his own kind of thing or whatever, so I can focus on getting the next car in and doing the next dyno tune. Where stuff like this, I let my heart get the best of me, and I try to be, you know, the best possible tuner and everything like that I can be. But at the end of the day, if I'm still doing that car, I can't schedule another one. And even if these guys are like, oh, put it off to the side, you can get to it in a couple weeks whenever you have time, I hate doing that because it just takes up my headspace. Like if that car is sitting at the shop and it's not out of there, or it's not done or completed or whatever, oh, I come home and I'm just like, I can't catch my breath because I'm so just into helping them, and it just drives me nuts. I make other people's problems my own, and that's just, oh, I let it get the best of me, and I try to be the best person that I can. But at the end of the day, I gotta try to get better at just being like, okay, man, you gotta fix this, take it home and come back later, you know? And I'll gladly strap it back down on the dyno and retune it if it needs. But some of these mechanical issues, they just take up a lot of time. They take up the majority of my day when I could be making more money tuning other people's cars, you know, or filling website orders, or making more content for you guys. But when I'm constantly just wrenching, you know, that's kind of why I got burnt out on doing this stuff. Like, I'm at that same spot now again. Like, I was stoked to get back into doing this, and then stuff like this happens, and I'm like, this is why I got burnt out in the first place. So, like I said, just trying to keep my head up, and like I said, I have numerous other guys that are like jumping at the bit. You know, can I bring my car right now? Can I bring it tomorrow? Whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but I gotta take one thing at a time. I can't do 100 things at once. I'm a one-man show. I'm gonna say it 100 more times, whatever. I really appreciate you guys watching and understanding. If you guys have any ideas on this car to maybe shoot over to this guy, or me, you know, the car's probably gonna be at my shop for a little while yet, but I'm gonna try to fix it. You know, maybe, I always tell myself, maybe I'll give it one more day, or, you know, I'll just spend another 8 hours on it, whatever. But realistically, tuning and spinning the dyno makes me more money, and the website stuff makes me more money. It's less stressful. I have a happier life at the end of the day. I'm not ruining my personal life on somebody else's. I don't know. I'm just babbling. But I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. I'm just trying to draw the lines with, you know, I don't know. Yeah. Have a great night. Better tomorrow. We'll see you later. See ya.